So I'd like to welcome you to the Medical Marijuana Awareness webinar series. This is the fall series, the first broadcast in our fall series, and the subject tonight will be seniors. And we'll be discussing how medical marijuana affects seniors and what it can do to help them. But more importantly, what we're here for is to answer your questions. Please feel free to ask questions. That's what we're here for. It's important that, especially when it comes to medical cannabis, that you have a vehicle to be able to answer the questions that you have. And by the way, I might mention as you're looking in, if you go to the bottom of your screen, you'll see it looks like two little balloons. It says Q&A. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. We'll try to answer all questions that are asked. We may not answer it as we're going through the presentation and the webinar, but we will try to answer it definitely at the end. So please feel free to let us know about that. As you know, the Medical Marijuana Awareness Series comes from the Medical Marijuana Awareness Seminars, which we have done. We did 135 of those up until the COVID virus shut us down in March. We had a great summer series, which I found very active, and I thank a lot of you for showing up again and following us on this series. This particular fall series, we're going to accent on a lot of the subject matters that people came back and asked us to rebroadcast, and seniors was one of them, and we didn't have one last quarter, so we're going to have one this quarter. We're also going to have a number of webinars where we're going to meet the dispensaries, and I should mention one of those dispensaries is going to be MÜV, who's on tonight, and it'll be something that I think it'll be kind of fun to just look at who a dispensary is, how they work, and what they do. And to that point, I'd like to introduce my co-host, Jenni Fried. Jenni, you're with MÜV, and please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Hi, guys. Thanks, everyone, for joining. I think this topic is very important. So thank you, Marc, for doing this and for inviting us and answering very important questions that a lot of people have. So I'm Jenni Fried. I'm the Regional Sales Manager for the Southeast region of MÜV. If you're unfamiliar, MÜV is a medical cannabis dispensary. We have locations all across the state. I myself have gotten into cannabis about 1.5 years now. My story is my mom, was diagnosed with cancer, and she herself became a patient. And I went through the experience with her and, was learning about the industry and started becoming very passionate about the plant. My sister was very involved in helping get it passed here in the state of Florida. So I've very near and dear to my heart. I believe in it and the medicinal benefits of the plant. So I love being in the industry, and I love educating people about the benefits that they can get from this plant.
You're located in the southern part of Florida, is that correct?
Yeah, I'm in West Palm Beach.
Yeah, and I think one of the things you do is you see a lot of patients.
Yeah.
And so you're bringing that to the party, not to mention your cannabis experience. So I think that's great. What I'd like to do is I'd like to go over to some presentation slides. I know that I really don't want to make this slideware. I think we want to make it as interactive as possible, and again, try to answer as many questions as you all have. But I do think there's a little bit of background we should go through to kind of kick things off and bring the subject matter up. So I'm going to go over here to a PowerPoint presentation. Hopefully all of you can see that. So Jenni, are we all good on that?
Yeah.
Good. Okay. So let me start by saying that what's important is that anytime you're doing anything that relates to your health, we recommend that you consult a physician. Now, medical marijuana doctors are available. I work with the MMTC clinics. I work with a lot of medical marijuana doctors, but primarily with them. And also your medical doctors is somebody you should consult with. Medical doctors are learning about medical cannabis, so they may not be as helpful as they normally should be, but they definitely rely on the specialists, so the medical marijuana doctors, to do that. The objective of this webinar is very simple. We really want to promote the safe use of medical cannabis. We want to help educate people based on science and basically on promoting discussion between individuals so that we can be able to understand what it is, how it works, the pros and the cons. It's not just this isn't just a pro thing. This is to understand how it can help you or not help you. And also be mindful, this is a very sensitive subject. We're not kidding. This is, I'm a senior citizen. I take medical cannabis. It helps me get through my day. It's helped me get my life back, to be candid with you. And so I think it's something that hopefully you'll be able to see. And we're really trying to bring together people that are practitioners, advocates, patients, students, all bringing them together. What's interesting about seniors and medical marijuana is it's surprising the number of seniors that are using medical marijuana. It's fascinating. It's probably one of the largest groups of medical marijuana users, especially in the state of Florida. And a lot of people are turning to it because of therapeutic use of it. And we'll talk more about that therapeutic use. You'll see there's an article that's at the bottom of the page. It's quoted as a follow-up to this webinar. You'll get some reference material and you'll get a web page you can go to be able to read a lot of the articles and really follow up on it. So we're going to be presenting some information. Don't worry about writing it all down. You'll be able to get it. You'll be able to follow it. But it's interesting that there's a lot of articles on this particular subject. Why do seniors turn to medical marijuana? Well, there's a number of reasons. One of them is treating stress, anxiety, and depression. And I can say that right now, in this particular environment, this COVID-19 quarantine environment, or semi-quarantine, depending on your point of view, anxiety, stress, and depression are something that we run into all the time. I was talking to a number of people today, and I don't think there's a discussion that I didn't have with somebody that those subjects didn't come up about. They're just tired of this. But on the other side of it, we got to do something about it. So it's unfortunately something we got to deal with, and it's something that we're going to do. And medical cannabis helps with that.
Yeah, I was going to say that I've actually been speaking with a lot of my clinics, and they've been saying the same thing, that the amount of patients that have become qualified to take medical cannabis during COVID has really increased. You know, everybody's home, the anxiety, the stress, everything like that, and people are really turning to cannabis as a great natural alternative.
Yeah, and it's fascinating. I think the industry is up by, like month over month, it's increasing by about 5%. This year, we're up about 30 to 40%, almost 50% actually, 48%. And a lot of it has to do with the COVID situation. It's something that's not a lot of fun. And again, what are seniors looking at? There's autoimmune situations, there's diabetes, there's appetite issues, there's insomnia. And to be blunt, people want to bring joy back into their life. Those seminar series that we did, we called it "I Got My Life Back." And that was because people would say that to us without being questioned. They would come up and say, "Cannabis got my life back." And it's something that I think if you haven't experienced it, you got to take a look at it, because in many cases it really can.
You know, I always like to tell this quick story. My grandmother is 90 years old, and she was never a cannabis user or anything like that. But, you know, I started to get her on CBD, and we'll talk more about CBD later. But my grandmother takes CBD every day, and if she runs out of her CBD, she actually feels it. Her muscles start to get more rigid. She has more difficulty walking. She can tell the difference. So my 90-year-old grandmother swears that this is what's keeping her alive. So it works.
Yeah, exactly. So, again, I'm a senior. I live in a senior citizens community here in Florida. And, you know, what I hear is a lot of concerns. And the concerns are, you know, I don't want to get high. Can I get addicted? Will I die? Will it conflict with my medication? Do I have to smoke it? Can I drive with it? Will they arrest me if I have it with me? Were they going to take my guns away? How hard is it to get? Because maybe can I get it delivered? And is it safe? And there's a lot of issues. There's probably other issues that are out there. And again, please bring up a question if you have it. I'm not going to answer any of these right now. What I'm going to do is through this presentation and through this webinar, we're going to go answer those questions for you. And then at the end, if we'll actually bring the slide back up, and if we haven't answered one, we'll answer it directly. But I want to have you understand we're here to answer your concerns and to address a lot of the issues that are out there. But what's fascinating to me is what do seniors do with medical cannabis? Probably the number one thing is they reduce pain, whether that's acute or chronic. Knee, back, joint, shoulder, arthritis. That's probably one of the top. Pain management is one of the top reasons why people use cannabis. Also, inflammation. It helps to reduce, if not prevent, inflammation. If you become inflamed, it increases the pain. In many cases, reducing pain is a matter of decreasing the inflammation. A lot of people use it for arthritis. It's very popular, and it does work. It takes about 2 to 3 weeks before you'll see the effects of it, of using it. But it definitely helps a lot of people with their arthritic situation. There's a lot of folks in my community and people that I've met, ladies that have crocheted that had to give it up because of their arthritis, and are back to crocheting or using their hands for different things. Sleep, digestion, lower stress, we mentioned that, reducing seizures, and also nausea. There's a number of, again, these are the main reasons why people are turning to medical cannabis. And one of them I didn't put on here, which we will talk about, is also for cancer that's there. How effective is it? Well, here in the United States, cannabis is what they call a Schedule I drug, which means it's deemed to have no medical value at all, which is a bit harsh in that people, they know that there's medical value, but that doesn't stop people from around the world, especially people in Israel, for example, to study medical cannabis. And there's quite a number of studies about medical cannabis that's out there, and especially for seniors. This is one done by Ben Gurion University. And a couple of people that I know that are over there, it was completed and published in 2018, and it's published in the European Journal of Internal Medicine. This was a study where they had patients that were over the age of 65. The average mean age was 74.5 years old, 74.5 years. The main reasons that they used it was pain and cancer. And in this particular study group, what they found out is after 6 months, almost 94% of the patients, 93.7%, found an improvement in their situation. Now, I'm going to stop for a moment and just mention there hasn't been a pharma trial ever done with that amount after 6 months that had that type of an improvement in the condition of any sort. You go back, I've talked to some medical doctors and I've talked to some folks, and this is just an amazing result that's coming out. And they also found that after 6 months, the number of patients that were worried about falling, because obviously as we get older, we worry about our balance, we worry about that type of thing, they reduced significantly. Now they didn't measure that. They got that from comments from the people that were giving the surveys, but it's something that I think is very, very important because it's something as a senior that we deal with. And when they did measure pain relief, they said the median pain level was about 8, and it went down to about 4. And that's significant because if you're in pain, your life isn't fun. I had from the ambiance of an automobile accident 4 years ago, I ended up with 2 herniated discs in my back, but I ended up with 7 herniated discs in my neck. And to the point where opioids just weren't the answer because I have to do website work and seminars like this. I can't do it on opioids. And medical cannabis has given me the capability to work relatively pain-free. My pain level is about a 1, maybe a 2. But it helps me be able to control that. And with that, I'm able to get my life back and be more normal. What are the side effects? Go ahead.
I'm glad you were bringing up about the prescription medications. That's one of the biggest things that I see is a lot of patients trying to get off all the pills. You know, everybody, especially as you get older, has a whole pill box to take every day. And I have heard story after story, once people have switched to cannabis, how many pills, if at all, that they're taking, that it's reduced the amount of overall pills that they've had to take. And it's amazing.
Yeah, it's especially amazing when you chat with the veterans who are given 12 pills right up front to start with, and sometimes have to take as many as 30, how they've been able to either reduce it or basically get off it. And that's another area, that's another webinar all in itself. But what are the side effects? What did they find out? About 10% of the people experienced some dizziness, and about 7% of the people had dry mouth. Where does the dizziness come from? The dizziness comes from the fact that when your body is now relaxing and your body is now healing, you basically you become a little bit stronger in certain areas and you become a little bit weaker in other areas. So your body's adjusting to it. But what I really want to point out here, and I'm going to go into it in more depth, if you listen to commercials that are on TV and they give you all the side effects where you have dry eye, and the bottom line, they tell you you're going to die. You know, nobody died from this. If 10% of the people got dizzy, but you had basically 94% of the people have an improved medical condition, in many cases, I would say that the pain to gain ratio is worth it. 18% of the people that were on opioids stopped using them, either decreased it or stopped using their prescription medications. So this is something that was done. It's published. There's a number of other studies that are out there. And I'll be giving you some references on them. But this is a pretty good one as a good indication of what's out there. Another interesting study that was done actually in 1970. When Nixon was trying to figure out what to do with medical cannabis, because what happened was it was the ruling that made it illegal or hard to use in the United States was basically declared to be illegal. He had to reschedule it, and he got his attorney general to go out and do a report called the Schaefer Report. And Schaefer was a very competent man. He was a very, very kind of an old-fashioned, moderate type of guy. He wanted facts, evidence, and science. And he produced a 1,184-page report. It took over a year to put it together. And what happened was that report debunked the overdosing, the gateway drug theory. It's not innocuous. It was no threat to public health. That's what he ended up coming out with that report. And that's what they came out saying. By the way, if you wonder where the Schaefer report went, it was buried. It was buried by the federal government up until the Obama administration came out and published it again. But this is a study that was out there, and it was done, like I say, in the 70s. What did Nixon do? Well, Nixon had a situation where he had race riots going on, and he had riots going on in college from the Vietnam War. So he decided to make cannabis illegal so he could be able to control those populations. He didn't make a medical decision. He didn't make a decision for public health. He made a political decision. And I say that because had he made the right decision at that time, hundreds, if not millions of people would have been helped and their lives would have got better. But we're in the situation we are today because of this. And what's fascinating was they were handed the evidence. Later on, when they asked Ehrlichman, did you know you were lying about the drugs? He said, of course we did. And I say that because if you're worried about using medical cannabis, we've been vilified. It's been vilified. It's something that gets you very concerned about. What's interesting is all the evidence is there, and at the time the decisions were made, that this is a plant that acts as a medicine. It is not a drug. Again, it is a plant that acts as a medicine. It's like echinacea. It's like vitamin C. It's like vitamin E. It's something that helps you quite a bit, and that's what's interesting that comes out. I want you to feel comfortable that you're not heading in a direction that's bad for you. In fact, if anything, the United States government went out and in 2003 got a patent on medical cannabis. Now, if they thought it was bad for you and they thought it wasn't going to be helping you, why would they get a patent on it? Because at that time they knew that medical cannabis at one point in time was going to become legal, and the federal government wanted to get a piece of the action from the standpoint of using patents to be able to do that. But this is the hypocrisy that was faced from our government for years. And this is something that when you're as a senior, we've looked at and just said, wow, I'm concerned about it. And then we find out that the US government's getting patents on it. They're speaking from both sides of it. The most important thing to understand is since 1964, the federal government, our federal government, the United States federal government, through the National Institute of Health, has been funding research in the medical marijuana in Israel. Let me say that again. Your tax money and my tax money has been used to fund and to do research into medical cannabis. And it was done and they found a gentleman named Dr. Raphael Mechoulam, who in the medical cannabis world is one of the founders, kind of one of the breakthrough type of scientists. But he did a lot of research in this particular area. Why did they fund research in Israel versus the United States? Because the senator's son was arrested for smoking pot. And he went to the CDC and he asked the CDC, can you give me the evidence of what it's going to do to my son if he continues to smoke weed? And the CDC came back and said, we have no studies. It's a Schedule I drug. We can't do studies in the United States. Not only can we not do them now, but we can't do them going forward. So what he did was he got the funds appropriated. Raphael Mechoulam was doing work in Israel about this, and that funding was done through Ben Gurion University and the Hebrew University in Jerusalem. What's interesting is we funded him until 2010. Now he founded 3 companies, multi-billion-dollar companies, and he came to the United States government and said, I don't want your funding anymore. So instead of giving it to him, they still give it to Ben Gurion University, Hebrew University, and so we still are funding research in Europe. And I find that interesting. Your and my tax money is paying for research into medical cannabis, and yet we won't be able to take advantage of it in many cases. Here, we're still fighting the legislation to be able to take advantage of it.
Absolutely.
But what he graduated out of his place were researchers. Again, this has gone over 50 years that are in Israel, they're in Canada, they're in the United States, they're in Spain, Germany, all over the world. The graduates from his program and now graduates from their programs are out there being able to look at medical cannabis. And I say that because one of his graduates is a lady by the name of Dr. Cristina Sanchez, who 22 years ago, the country of Spain came to her and said, we want you to study medical cannabis and cancer. And they built her a lab at the University of Madrid, and she's been studying it for 22 years. And she has over 1,800 studies on medical cannabis and cancer. And yet, and I'll show you where some of those studies are. But it's interesting that research has been done, and we know that it's something that's can be effective for us. And again, your money is paid for this, so you might as well take advantage of it. Let's put it that way. Now, all research in the United States that's done on any medical topic goes into the university. It's called PubMed. The National Institute of Health has a library where you can put in all the studies. Part of the agreement that Meshulam had was all of the studies he did had to be published in PubMed. And if you go out to PubMed now, you'll find that there's over 32,000 studies on marijuana, which is amazing. And when you take a look at things like Adderall, you take a look at some of the pharma drugs like hydrocodone. Hydrocodone has 1,200 studies. Cannabis has 32,000 studies. Now, a lot of the researchers will tell you that the studies that are done overseas were studies that were done were done over 6 months or done over a year, which in the United States, we'd like to do studies over 5 years. But on the other side of the coin, these studies that were done that are done overseas are done with populations of 500 or more, where in the United States, our studies are done with 100 to 500 people. So the studies are legitimate. We're what countries like Germany, countries like England, countries like Spain, all follow, countries like Israel. What's interesting, we've done 148,000 studies on epilepsy, and they've done 406 studies on epilepsy and marijuana, which is fascinating. When you compare that to Adderall, there's more studies on epilepsy and marijuana than there is on Adderall. And you can see the studies that are here that are in, this is again from Christina Sanchez and from Meshulam. They're putting their studies out there. Now, they don't necessarily put every study out there because again, the US government being a Schedule I drug, it's still blocked here, but in the European PubMed, they have those studies that are there. So we know the research is there.
Right, so if anybody says to you, show me the research, here it is.
Yeah, and that's a good point because when I deal with politicians or I deal with certain people that say, look, we need to do more studies. You know, we need to do the research. I turn around and say, look at our own database. I mean, look at our own database. It's here. Have you looked at that? Now, I'm the first person that'll tell you we need to do more studies. We clearly need to do more studies. We need to understand more about this, and clearly need to dig down on it. But that doesn't mean that it hasn't been studied and it hasn't been proven to be safe. And on that particular topic, if you take, this is a chart that was published by the CDC. And by the way, it had to do with opioid deaths. And after 2014, they didn't publish this chart again. So that's why it's not updated. But it took a look at, if we take a look at the number of deaths that we have out here, this little blue line here are from prescription opioids. And you take a look at this going up, the little dip that's in here was because in 2010, the federal government came in and tried to cut back on the number of prescription opioids that were being used by people that were users. Now, let me tell you, as someone who has 7 herniated discs in my neck, if the government comes back and tells me that that drug is no longer available, that doesn't mean that my pain has gone away. I get very upset when people like Jeff Sessions say I should be taking aspirin. It doesn't work. I have a serious condition. And what happened was in 2010, when they started cutting back on it, look at what happened to heroin. This is heroin right here. So if you're in pain, if you've been in an automobile accident, if you're a veteran and you have pain, you're going to go somewhere to manage that pain. I worked in Silicon Valley for 38 years. In my tenure out there, I was either a director, vice president, general manager, or division manager in various capacities. I lost 8 employees. The last 10 years I was in Silicon Valley from heroin. And this is not people that were drug users on the street begging. These are senior vice presidents driving BMWs, competent human beings that would either been in an automobile accident, that had been in some sort of a skiing accident, or had been injured as a veteran. And they needed it for their pain, and we lost them. And I think it's too bad that we didn't have the capability to introduce them to things like medical cannabis to be able to help them out. Right now, we're losing over 50 veterans a day. The quoted number is 29, but it's actually over 50 if you talk to the veterans groups. And we're losing literally, last year we lost over 30,000 people in the United States to prescription to opioids. Even though we're trying to supposedly cut back on it, it's not working. Put it that way. We need cannabis to be able to help us out. What's even more fascinating is if you look at the annual deaths, tobacco, poor diet, alcohol, 100 people a year die from peanuts. No one, if you look at the bottom line over here, this little chart, there's no deaths from medical cannabis. There's never been a recorded death from medical cannabis. Peanuts are more dangerous, or marijuana is safer than peanuts, let's put it that way. That's something that's really, really fascinating. And everybody knows the peanut scares that you get when you go to various stores and things. This is from the World Health Organization. And the way this chart works is it basically says that if you're looking at the dosing, that if you take one drink and you can feel it, you can feel it's doing something to your body, that if you take 10 times that amount, it could be fatal. Now, if you take 2 drinks for you to feel it, then it would be 20 that's out there. That's how this is. This is how this works. But what's interesting, it says by every measure, marijuana is safer than alcohol. It's safer than nutmeg. It's safer than peanuts. That's what this chart is showing. To give you an idea, there was CDC had to go and make a presentation to the federal government about 3.5 years ago, and they asked the gentleman from the CDC, what does this really mean? And he said, look, it takes 118 cups of coffee a day, and you're on the verge of potentially killing yourself. 13 shots of alcohol in an hour probably put you on that verge as well. If you drink 6 liters of water in an hour, you could die from that. And they asked him, well, what about medical cannabis? And the answer was, he said, well, nobody's ever died from it. We just don't know. So jokingly, he gave a flippant answer and said you'd have to eat 1,500 pounds of cannabis in 15 minutes to die. That was a joke, okay? Well, it got published because it was in a Senate hearing. I don't think you could eat 1,500 pounds of anything in 15 minutes, much less cannabis or anything else. But the point is, it's safe. And that's what I want to get across to you. It's all the medical research that's been done. The CDC has been around for a number of years, and they've studied this closely. We haven't had anybody die from it. So I want you to feel comfortable that you're in a category where this isn't going to kill you. One of the questions is, will I die from it? The answer is no. Okay. Even recreational marijuana users, nobody's ever died from recreational marijuana users. They've gotten high. Okay. They've been hospitalized because they're high, but they haven't died from it. Let's put it that way. Now, why is that? Why does it not kill you? Because there's something in your body called the endocannabinoid system. Not many people have heard about this, but the endocannabinoid system is something that allows you, that your body uses to regulate itself. Let me get this. What it is your body has CB1 and CB2 receptors in it. And those CB2 and CB2 receptors are located throughout your body. What do those receptors do? Well, the CB1 and CB2 receptors act like a lock and key with your existing human receptors that you have. It's part of your body. It's part of how your body functions. And what this does is this helps you regulate pain, your memory, your appetite, your inflammation, your immune system. It basically allows you to be able to, the body to be able to control and to regulate itself. And what's interesting is the CB1 receptors are located primarily in the brain and the central nervous system, so you can see them up here. And the CB2 receptors are primarily located in the organs and again in your immune system. And this is how your body regulates itself. And that's what's very, very interesting. The way it works is that your body, your brain, identifies a part of your body where you have pain, you have inflammation, you have some sort of a problem, and your body produces what they call endocannabinoids. So you are, in essence, a marijuana plant. That's the way of putting it. You're producing your own endocannabinoids. And your body says, we need to produce this to handle the inflammation in my knee or the pain in your shoulder or whatever that's out there. Now, I'm a 70-year-old man, and so you're in a situation where my body doesn't necessarily produce the endocannabinoids as it did before. So this is where plant-derived endocannabinoids come into place, photocannabinoids. They come from buds, tinctures, extracts, and they work with the endocannabinoids in my body to, again, control my appetite, control my pain, pleasure sensation, immune, mood, that type of thing. You may have, and if you've been around for a while, you've probably heard of something called Mirinol. And Mirinol is pure THC. And it's something that you have to be very, very careful of. I'm not a big believer in synthetic cannabinoids. I just don't believe that you can reproduce an apple. I don't believe that you can reproduce a banana. And I think cannabinoids, reproducing cannabis, although the scientists will argue with me, I don't think, again, that you can reproduce nature. But Mirinol is only THC, and by itself could be very dangerous for you. Only use it under direction of a of a doctor. And so that's why it's really not part of the medical cannabis family, except in very rare and specific situations. But this is how your body works. You take these endocannabinoids, your body then sends that endocannabinoids to your body. It goes to the CB1 and CB2 receptors, and again, appetite, pain, pleasure, sensation, all get handled. So how does it exactly work? Well, your brain says there's a problem, and again, you have these photocannabinoids that are put together. They get stored in the fatty acids of your body. So think of your fatty acids in your body kind of like a battery pack where everything's being stored. And when your brain says there's a problem, it takes those fatty acids and it breaks them down into long chain fatty acids. And when they do that, what it does is it then sends the endocannabinoids through your bloodstream to a certain part of your body to be able to help that particular part of your body. Now, this is important for two reasons. Why hasn't anybody died from medical cannabis? Because it's your body producing its own medicine. It's not a foreign substance. It's not a chemical that's foreign to your body. Your own body is using your own body's processes to heal itself. That's very, very important. Mm-hmm. The other thing that happens is that your brain, your neurons, your nervous system knows where the problem is. It doesn't need a doctor to tell it where the problem is. It knows. It's the one who identifies it. So in the case of like my mother, who was taking medical cannabis for her breast cancer, she went to the glaucoma doctor 3 weeks after starting her treatments, and her glaucoma was gone. The doctor said, "What are you doing?" And she said, "I'm taking medical cannabis." They said, "Yeah, that makes sense." Because your body knew that she needed help with her glaucoma. And that's called the entourage effect. In other words, your body knows the situation, it knows where the pain is, and the cannabis is used to be able to help with that particular condition. You may use it to be able to address pain in your knee, but your shoulder pain goes away or your inflammation goes away. This is how cannabis works. It's very, very important. There. Now, what kind of cannabis is there? So, Jenny, I want you to help me out here. When I got involved in medical cannabis about 6 years ago. All I heard about was sativa and indica, and it was kind of the dominant discussions that were out there. We still have sativa and indica, but why don't you kind of tell me a little bit about sativa and indica, and by the way, where we are today, and what kind of cannabis is available to help us, especially as seniors.
Sure. So what they mean by sativa and indica, it depends on the type of strain. So sativa typically people use for during the daytime. It's one of those where it's more uplifting and it's more give you that invigorating feeling, where indicas are more known for helping with sleep and something that you're going to want to take at night. I always say indica in the couch. Helps you remember. But then there's also hybrid. So that's, if they've taken the plants and they've combined them together and you've got a little bit of both. But now with all of the growing that's happened and the phototypes and everything like that, they've taken the different strains of different plants that most of the time, most of the strains are hybrids anyway. So they're going to give you the effects that you want. Some of them are more indica leaning, some of them are more sativa leaning, and that's something that us at the dispensary will be able to come and help you. If you come in and tell us you're dealing with, these symptoms, we'll be able to suggest one or the other to help you. If you're needing with sleep, then you're going to go with an indica. For me personally, I can't do sativas because I have anxiety. So sativas can sometimes cause people who have anxiety, it could increase it. So you got to be careful about that too. And that's one of the things about cannabis is that it's a lot of trial and error. It's very different for each individual person. So it's important to be able to be educated about what you're looking at and be able to decipher what it is that's really going to help all of your symptoms.
Yeah, and then when we talk about cannabinoids here, what's happened over the last 5 and 6 years is we've been studying this plant to the point where we're starting to formulate what they call strains. And strains are being produced to identify and to address certain conditions in your body, like sleep, for example, like pain and that type of thing. And so you take the actual cannabis itself, like you mentioned, hybrids, combination of sativa, indica, different types of cannabis that address different medical properties or lifestyle altering conditions. That's important. But they also tie them to something called terpenes. And terpenes are very, very important. Terpenes are like the gas in the gas tank for cannabis. And why don't you tell me a little bit about terpenes, because they're really, really important. This is where 1 and 1 makes 3. The strains,
so
terpenes really cause something to happen.
So terpenes is what we like to call like the flavor of cannabis. So it's what you're gonna smell. So they're broken down in, I guess, in the next slide, of a bunch of different terpenes that actually exist in the cannabis plant. So different smells. So you're gonna have a bunch of different terpenes that can, those smells will have different effects. For example, think about when you take a lemon and you're going to smell a lemon. It automatically kind of gives you that uplifting, refreshing, anything citrusy, is made for that. And you're gonna find that in cannabis. And then of course there's pine smells and things like that. And these all come into play as what Marc talked about before, the entourage effect. So you're going to be getting the medicinal benefits of all of these terpenes, the flavors in cannabis, and different strains have different terpenes. So this is where it really is important, because for patients to track, their effects of when they try different products and how it makes them feel, because one terpene may help you and one may not, or vice versa. So it's important to pay attention to those things, because it really does differ so much. But you can find natural terpenes in things like flowers, spices. Think about when you smell a rose, you automatically feel good, essential oils, lavender to help people sleep, and things like that. These are things that are naturally going to be found in cannabis. Most people did not know that. So a lot of times, we introduce these cannabis terpenes back into some of the products to give you some more of those medicinal benefits that you're looking for from these flavors, as they call them, terpenes.
What's interesting is when I first got involved in medical cannabis, when again I had this accident, and I went into the dispensary, and the doctor, by the way, puts together a recommendation, and he recommended some products or types of products, and I went into the dispensary, and there were literally, if you can see my picture behind me, there's a lot of products, okay, and when I talked to the person behind the counter, which is referred to as a bud tender, they looked at me, they looked at my recommendation, and they said, here's what we recommend that you try. And so we talked about how I would want to take it. And I found that very interesting. And when I went home, I started thinking, how did they know? So the next time I went back, I got bold enough to say, how do you know that one works versus the other one that's on the counter next to it? And they looked at me and said, it's because of the terpene profile. We looked at what your condition is, we looked at what your problem is, and we were able to have a strain that was made for that particular condition tied to a terpene that addresses your particular medical condition. And the light bulb went on for me. This is medicine. This is just like the medicine you get from the pharma drugs, where they're making something that addresses my medical condition. Bing, there's it. The endocannabinoid system is how it gets there. There's a thing called anandamide, which helps you, that pushes it to the part of your body. The cannabinoid is the thing that does the healing, but the terpenes are the ones that navigate, that help you figure out what exactly type of cannabinoid is going to help you, that gets you there. So it's a combination of things that's out there. And I should point out, we didn't really cover it that much, we should have, that every person, every body is different. Every human animal is different. You mentioned that you're very susceptible with the sativas, right, Jenny? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not, but there are other people. And so because of your body, it's important that you try a number of different, you try some things to find out what works and doesn't work. Not only the quantity, but the type, okay, and how many doses a day that you take. Whether you, like, for example, I take cannabis in the morning, in the middle of the day, and at the end of the day, because my pain level is at a point that if I don't do that, I'm in pain, and I prefer not to be in pain. I'd like to be able to lead a normal life and be able to go forward. But I think that your dosing is very, very important. We'll talk about dosing in a little bit. Absolutely. But I think it's something to really pay attention to. Jen, I'd like to dig down on a few of these terpenes for a minute, because there's a few of them that when you go into a dispensary, you may want to pay attention to, because probably the person at the dispensary will probably bring up products that have these in there. Is that right?
That's right. So different, like you were saying, different strains have different terpene profiles. So what we look for is, if you come in and you say you're dealing with certain symptoms, there's certain strains with these terpenes that we'll recommend. For example, this one, you're going to have more of the peppery, woodsy, cloves type of smell to it, and when you smoke it and things like that. But this is great for pain, anxiety, depression, stress relief, and ulcers. So that's a great one that's going to be helping with those.
Triethylamine is a really big deal. We're going to talk about, I want to bookmark something called RSO as a strain. We'll talk about that when we get
I
to the
would
end of
love
it.
to talk about that.
Was that because it specifically addresses cancer, okay?
Yes.
Plus other things, but cancer is its primary reason. But another one that's very popular, another one that's really important is limonene.
Yep, this is exactly what I was talking about before with citrus smells and the invigorating, elevated mood, stress reliever, anxiety, depression, inflammation. That's a big one. Inflammation and pain, and then again, cancer. And this is anything citrusy, fruits, rosemary, juniper, you're going to find with this one. So this is one of my favorite ones.
Yeah, and again, notice that these over here, they're talking about stress relief, okay? That's important that a lot of people are taking a look at. Pinene is a very, very interesting one. Why don't you talk about that?
Okay, so pinene, again, this is one that's you're going to be using for people with asthma, pain, anxiety, cancer again, and you're going to get more of the alertness and the memory retention, which I know a lot of seniors, that's something that, you know, they're worried about. And this is one of the big ones about this is memory retention, and it will counteract some effects of THC. So THC is the element that actually gets you that psychoactivity. So when it says it counteracts it, so it would take down some of that psychoactivity. And this is pine needles. We're all used to that smell. So this is that smell that you're used to, but you're actually going to find it in cannabis, amazingly.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting that pinene is kind of a two-edged sword. You got to be careful. It helps with alertness. It helps with memory retention. But if you're trying to address conditions like PTSD, it's something that you should probably avoid, because in many cases, a lot of people that are looking at PTSD are trying to basically forget a lot of the bad experiences that they had, especially veterans, that's out there. It's something that is both a positive and a negative that's out there. But it does help with memory retention. Linalool. This is one of the most favorite ones.
So this is lavender. So everybody knows, you know, lavender. You think about the spa, you know, you think about all those relaxation oils that you have. This is what you're going to get. Again, mood enhancement, sedation. So this is more going to be found in those indicas, the ones that you're going to take at night. So this is great for inflammation. Maybe at night things start to flare up. This is a great one for that. Pain, insomnia, depression, anxiety, and then neurodegeneration. So this is actually one of my favorites because I love the indicas so much. So this one is a really great one for at night when you just want to shut it all down.
Yeah, and a lot of the people who do essential oils, lavender is one of the most popular ones that are out there. As in myrcene. Now myrcene is actually very popular in many cases.
It is. So this is one of the more popular ones. Like I said, also with the indica. So when you think indica couch, that's the couch lock that we're talking about. The relaxing, the sedating, you watch it at night, you know, take it at night, watch a movie. This is the more earthy type of scent, cloves, herbal, and that's, like I said, insomnia, inflammation and pain again. And it can be found in natural things also, like thyme and lemongrass and mango. So things that you naturally find, you're going to be, you know, helping you, excuse me, relieve your symptoms through cannabis.
It's interesting. When I first moved into I moved into a community, like I say, a seniors community about 3 years ago, and when people found out I was in the medical cannabis business, they thought I was like Darth Vader. I mean, they really avoided me like the plague. And then as people started using medical cannabis, and right now there's 82 people in my community that I know of that are using medical cannabis. I've now become the white knight. I've now become the white stormtrooper that everybody looks for advice. But most of the reasons why people were looking for it is to be able to relax and sleep, to be able to just be able to, for insomnia and pain. And myrcene is a great terpene that can help you with a lot of that.
Yes. I see a question right here in the Q&As. It's asking if something's happened to your doctor. What you'll need to do is you'll need to then transfer to a different doctor. If that doctor is no longer recommending, you're going to have to then go and find a different doctor. And MMTC is one of those clinics that hopefully is around your area. If not, then if you go to MÜV-FL.com, there's also a place there you can find a physician in your area. But yeah, if your doctor lost his license or something like that, you're going to have to go and transfer to a different doctor.
Yeah, I work with the Medical Marijuana Treatment Clinics, MMTC, and for $49, you can transfer over to them and become a patient of MMTC. And there's a couple of advantages to that. One of the things is you get help with dosing support, which no other medical doctors are out there. I live in the Claremont area, so I'm pretty close to you. And there's a number of clinics. There's actually 3 clinics that are around us to be able to help.
There you
you.
go.
So, Lee, if you can send her information, Lee Jones will send you some information. And anybody who's in that particular situation, please contact MMTC. They'll be able to take over and be able to help you, because you went to that doctor for help and relief. It didn't go away because he went away. Your situation didn't go away because he went away.
Right. Don't give up on cannabis because your doctor did.
Yeah. Well,
or had legal issues.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, by the way, here's some efficacy studies. I'm not going to go through each of these. They'll be presented to you. They'll be given to you as a follow-up. But I just want to let you know that throughout the years, there's been a lot of studies on a number of different situations, whether that's neuropathy, diabetes, whether that's inflammation, whether it's pain. There's a lot of studies that are out there that actually help be able to make the case. Now, there's a case of how do I take it? One of the questions is, do I have to smoke it? I know a lot of folks worry that they have to just light up a joint and be able to use it. I think we're way past that. And so why don't you chat about that, Jenny, a little bit, and then we'll talk about the different dosing forms.
Of course. So I always like to talk about this. So MÜV's CEO, the reason that the company was actually started was the CEO's daughter suffers from epilepsy. And she was on a lot of pharmaceuticals that was really doing a lot of damage to her. So he was looking for other alternatives, natural alternatives to help her with her epilepsy, and therefore created MÜV. And so we're a research and development company. So all of our stuff, we do lots of testing on to make sure that it's the most medicinal cannabis that you can find in the state. So with that being said, we didn't want, she's a child, we don't want her to have to smoke anything, especially if somebody's having a seizure, you don't want to put anything in the mouth. So we came up with a lot of different routes that you can take your medical cannabis. So one of the first ones is actually very popular with seniors. Both my mother and my grandmother.
Let's go. You want to talk about this one?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
It's a lot easier. Yeah.
Yes. So both my mother and my grandmother take sublingual tinctures. So if you've seen that, those are the droppers. And what you were just going to do is you put it under your tongue, and you can take your cannabis that way and swallow it. So typically, because it is done sublingually, it does usually take a little bit for it to kick in for onset time. Any type of edible, anything that you're eating, because it has to metabolize, so it takes anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes. But I will interject and say that MÜV has a patent on a technology that we use. It's called encapsulation, and it enables the tinctures in quicker onset time. So you're actually going to be getting your relief within 15 to 20 minutes, which is super great. So that's one way to get your cannabis. Comes in different forms, just pure THC, just CBD, or a lot of places do 1-to-1. We do 1-to-1, which is 1 part CBD, 1 part THC. And that will last for about 4 to 6 hours. And then you have the vape pens, which everybody is familiar with. So what's nice about the vape is that is going to give you that immediate relief. So you'll have to find the perfect combo. For example, for sleep, sometimes people like to take a sublingual tincture, and then they'll take their vape pen just so that they can get that immediate relief, and that the tincture will then over elapsed time give them that long relief that they need. So another form is actually capsules. So we actually make cannabis in capsule form. And that's a really nice thing that if you are so used to just, setting up your pill box and taking your daily pills, we do offer THC capsules, and we also offer RSO capsules, which is something that Marc and I will talk about a little bit later on. So that's also an ingestible way to take your THC, your cannabis. And then edibles. Everybody's excited about edibles. The rules and regulations just got passed here in Florida, so they're slowly coming out in different stores. We actually have a contract with Wana Brand. It's the #1 edible company in the country. So we're really, really excited to get these in. We are waiting for the Department of Health approval, but we're hoping October, maybe the end of October, to release our edibles. And that'll be a really nice way for patients to be able to, it'll be I think the rules and regulations say it's 5 milligrams per each edible, however, if it's chocolate or chew or whatever, and that's going to be an easy way to take your medication as well. But again, you're going to be looking at a little bit more of an longer onset time, but it will last 4 to 6 hours.
Yeah, and I want to mention something, that you can mix and match your dosing methods. Let me be very specific. In my particular case, when I wake up in the morning, my level of pain is between a 7 and an 8. And it's not fun. So I have by my nightstand, I have actually two, I have a sublingual drop, which I take. And I know that it's going to take, in my case, it takes about 20 to 25 minutes to work. But I want to get rid of my pain right away. So I have a vape pen. And I usually take 1 to 2 hits off my vape pen. And literally within a minute or two, the pain goes from a level of 7 or an 8 down to a 1.
Wow.
And I have to tell you, the first time that happened, first time I did that, I looked at my wife, she was looking at me, I said, I said, this is crazy. It's like somebody took a rag and wiped my back and the pain went away. Even this morning when I did it, I'm always amazed. It's been 4 years. It's amazing to me how that works.
Yeah,
and it's good for an hour or two. In my case, it goes for about 2 to 3 hours. But by mixing and matching them, I'm able to use the vape pen to get me to that half hour or that 20 minutes to a half hour where I know the sublingual drops take hold. My mother carries around, she lives in California, she carries around edibles.
Right.
And if the middle of the day, she can't, even in a quarantine situation, she can't necessarily want to get up and go in the house to get something. She grabs her little purse and she has a couple of gummies, and she's known as a gummy queen in her family. So you can mix and match these things is what I'm trying to point out. You don't have to stick to just one.
Right, that's true.
But tell me about topicals and especially sublingual patches.
So topicals, so it's just like it says. So it is lotions, creams that you put on top of your skin to get that relief. Most of the time they're spot specific. So if you have arthritis in your hands or tennis elbow or something like that, you would just put it right on top there and you'll get immediate relief. I do like to talk about MÜV's topicals because we do have a line that goes with the tinctures that I was telling you about, is we have what's called Evolve Gel. And that is a topical, but because of the technology that we use, it actually is a full body systemic effect. So you can put it on anywhere in your body, but you're gonna get the relief all over. So that's a really nice alternative also. A lot of people with neurodegenerative diseases, arthritis, MS, those gels, the topicals that are systemic are really, really super helpful for that. The transdermal patch, that is a great one for seniors because that is what we call a microdose. So that's a small amount of cannabis that you're gonna be getting over an extended time. So it's a 72-hour slow release patch. So you're gonna put it on a venous area. A lot of people put it on their lower back, on the top of their foot, and you're gonna wear that for as long as you need to, for 72 hours. And it's gonna give you a small amount of cannabis. So what I like to call that is that in cannabis, sometimes you get your relief and then you come down into your valley, peaks and valleys. So what's nice about the transdermal patch is that you never have to dip down. It kind of keeps you straight along with that pain relief. So you never have to be in that, excruciating pain that you're always going to have some sort of medicine in you at all time. But I will say also that it's nice because if you do feel like you've gotten your relief, you don't have to keep it on for the full 72 hours. You can remove it and then reapply it when you do feel like you need more, but it does work for 72 hours.
I was going to mention you can take off the patch. The only one of these dosing forms that you can actually take off in 30 minutes later it's out of your system is a transdermal patch. So I tell a lot of people when you're trying to figure out how much CBD, how much THC. By the way, 1-to-1 is 1-to-1 ratio between them, and we usually start, the famous 1-to-1 is where most people start, is right in the middle that's out there. Transdermal patches are a great way to help you figure out, which dosing. I'm wearing a patch right now. I typically use 1 to 2 patches a week because it just helps me. Candidly, it helps me, like you mentioned, there's no coming down period. It helps me be able to be constant with throughout the day.
Right.
And the topicals, so I'm going to give a shameless pitch for your topical. One of my bad habits was I was a golfer. I played competitive golf for a number of years, both in high school, college, and professionally. And I'm a golf junkie. I just, I've been called a golf nut. But when you do that for 50 years, you get sunspots, and you get a lot of them. And I started using the MÜV topical on my face and my hands and my shoulders, arms and shoulders for the sunspots. And it works. Now, they're not 100% gone, okay? But compared to where they were when I first started using them literally over a year ago, it's night and day. I have people that have seen me, like haven't seen me in a year or two. And of course, now with the quarantine situation, they don't see me at all. But the point is, when I was, for example, earlier in the year, meeting people and talking to people, I had people who knew me who just said, "Gee, what did you do? Did you get plastic surgery?" And the answer was no. I'm using a cannabis-based topical, and it helps them with a lot of that. So it's something to pay attention to.
Right.
Now, there's some other forms like sprays which are being used for kids. Why don't you mention that?
Sure. So we have something called an oral spray. So I always like to relate it to the old Banaka, the breath spray. And it's a little bottle. And what's nice about it is it's discreet, it's odorless. You can just throw it in your purse. And that's also a microdose. So that's really great for new cannabis users if you just want to try it out. It's a microdose, small amount of dosing that you can just spray anytime you need the relief. So that's a super convenient, and you're going to get that immediate relief as well. And then of course we have flower, which is what we call it here in the state, and that's your typical what you're used to, the bud. So that you can smoke it. We sell it, by the eighth. We have pre-rolls, and then they also do flower cups. So what the flower cups are is that's for people who are interested in vaporizing their flower. That's a whole other thing, but it is an option of a different way to inhale your flower, to vaporize it. And then we also have 3 different tiers of flower. I know that can be kind of confusing, but basically the way that it's broken down, I think a lot of dispensaries have it as well. It gives the patients better pricing options. So our tier 1s are going to be those bigger size nugs, and that's going to be $50. And then you have the tier 2, which are going to be medium size, and that's going to be $40. And then you've got like the smaller ones, they call them like popcorn ones, and that's $32. So it gives patients a nice option to try out different strains and things like that.
It's fascinating to me. We're in the generation that grew up with weed, which I'll call flower. How many people really want to go back to that? It just, although there are other alternatives, I personally prefer the vape pens and the edibles and the tinctures. But it's amazing how many people really it just makes them feel comfortable. So,
right, because that's what they're used to, and right. So, I mean, there's many different options, but like you said, people still love their flower, and it's still the biggest seller, in the state. So, and then we have what's called macro dosing. So these are patients that are really going to need a stronger concentration of the THC or the CBD. This is going to be people who maybe, cancer patients and things like that. It's called crumble and shatter. Basically, it's just pure THC. It's very, very strong. It is inhaled through the lungs. You will get immediate relief, and it lasts 1 to 6 hours.
Now let's go back and talk about a very important one called RSO.
Yes. So RSO, if you haven't heard of it, it's Rick Simpson oil. And basically what it is, so when we take the cannabis plant, normally we just extract the cannabinoids that we want, which is typically CBD and THC. But the plant actually is full of many different cannabinoids, which are also medicinal. So back to the research is that unfortunately, because we haven't been funded to do all this research, we don't have the research on all these other cannabinoids, but we do know that a lot of them are extremely medicinal. We will find it out, we just haven't gotten there yet. So basically RSO extracts the entire plant and gives you all of the medicinal benefits, the full entourage effect. And it is in my opinion, the most medicinal form of cannabis.
They refer to that as whole plant.
Whole plant, exactly. Taking the whole plant and extracting it all out. So it typically comes in like a thick black tar type substance, but I don't know about other dispensaries, but I know for us, we have a couple different forms, which I can talk about later or now if you'd like. But it is typically, it's something that patients have to be super careful with because it is strong. It's very strong. So you have to start, as we always say, start slow. Start low, go slow. So you want to, you want to be careful with it because it's extreme psychoactivity. It's great for insomnia, patients who are going through chemo and are having that trouble sleeping or with their appetite or any of those things. This is one of those medicines. I tell my mom, she's went through chemo. Thank God she's okay right now. But even as a preventative, I tell her, Mom, you need to take RSO every single day because I truly believe, and Marc will tell you because he's got some good stories of that this RSO cures or can cure, help alleviate, help reduce the size of some melanomas. And it's just truly, truly a very medicinal form of cannabis.
Yeah, I'm going to put my mother was diagnosed with breast cancer about 3 years ago. About 3 years ago now, almost 3 years ago, and she was very anti-cannabis. She was worried I got in this industry, but on the other side of the coin, the doctor wanted to do a mastectomy, and I said, Mom, at your age, she was 88 at the time. I said, Mom, mastectomy. If the chemo and radiation don't kill you, the operation will. And so I put her on RSO oil. Now I had to put her on a high concentration of it because she was way down the line. I think it was stage 4 at that particular time. And what was interesting is now the way I worked it with her was I had her take it, for example, in the evenings, like 8 to 10 o'clock at night. She'd fall asleep. By 10 o'clock the next morning, she was able to conduct her day. But she was able to take the high doses that was needed to be out there. The doctor just railed on me because he was in California and he was just telling me I'm killing my mother. And I told him we'll find out. And we did CAT scans for literally over 3 months. And at the end of 3 months, her cancer was 80% eliminated. It was down. And she's in complete remission right now. This has been almost 3 years, and she still takes RSO oil every night. Okay, I think it's what's keeping her alive. But had she gone the other route, I think she might have been alive, but she'd have gone through a lot of pain and she'd have gone through a lot of discomfort. So it's something that I've seen the benefits of it. I've worked with other patients who had the benefits of it. And it's something that if cancer is one of the things that's unfortunately come knocked on your door, it's something you ought to take a look at.
Yeah, and actually also I've heard, I think you were telling me about with the skin cancer, so it actually can be used topically. Yes. For skin cancer. And I've heard many stories of it getting rid of either completely or significantly reducing the cancers.
Yeah, this is not a magic wand. It's more like fairy dust. I mean, it's not like,
right.
And it's something that you also have to understand. It is something that is, it's something that you've got to take continuous. It's like taking vitamins. You don't take it and then stop. You've got to continue. Your body builds up. It builds up an immunity in your system. It helps your body function. And so stopping doesn't help, but once you do, it does amazing things for you. Like I say, my mother's now 92 and she's driving us crazy. She's like the Energizer Bunny, but she's still out there. Now I'm going to go back for a second. We brought up some concerns about I don't want to get high with medical cannabis because there's a CBD effect, which the CBD that will not get you high. The THC does. But by mixing it in the strains that it does, like for example, one-on-ones, or sometimes, for example, you can take 19 or 20 CBD to 1 THC. And the reason is, why would you take the 1 THC? Because that's what triggers the entourage effect that you need in your body. So you can use it and not get high. That's what's important.
Right. Well, I think we didn't touch on this so much, but the difference between CBD and THC. Where THC, that's what's the psychoactivity. When people say, oh, I'm going to get high, that's the THC. CBD is the non-psychoactive part of the plant.
Right. So the other question is, can I get addicted? The answer is no. you can stop at any point in time. This is not something that your body's going to get addicted to. Now, I will tell you, I take medical cannabis, like I mentioned, for pain. About every 6 to 8 weeks, I will stop taking it for a day, maybe a day and a half. And the reason for that is because my body doesn't want, I don't want my body to become reliant on being able to be helped from the outside. I want it to still work. And I'm basically saying to my endocannabinoid system, okay, guys, you still got to do your job and you still got to work. What happens to me after a day and a half is my pain level gets up to a 7 and an 8 and it doesn't go away. I'm not addicted to medical marijuana. What I am is I'm addicted to getting rid of my pain. And there's a difference between that. I can stop at any point in time. But the problem with stopping is my pain level goes up to a point where I'm not only uncomfortable, I make other people's lives uncomfortable. But the main part about it is I'm not going to die from this. Nobody's going to die from medical marijuana. And when you ask if it does conflict with other medications, it will not conflict with it almost will not conflict with anything. The only thing you got to be careful about is if you're taking anything related like blood thinners or heart medication, you do have to be careful because how it works in your body is it goes through your bloodstream. And so if you are taking anything that has to do with heart conditions, blood thinners, your medical marijuana doctor should work with your medical doctor. What they'll do is you need to just get the dosing right. It's not that it'll cause a problem. It'll cause a problem if you don't get the dosing right. Let's put it that way. So really let your medical marijuana doctor.
Yep, they can help you with that for sure.
Okay. Do I have to smoke it? I think we addressed that. Can I drive with it? Well, anytime you go to Publix or you go to any of these pharmacies and you pick up medication, what does it say on the bottle? Be careful. It's the same thing here. Just be careful. I don't recommend that you, especially when you first start using medical cannabis, find out what your tolerance level is. Find out what you can and you can't take, just like you would with any drug that you'd be taking that your doctor would prescribe from the pharmacy. You just have to be conscious that this is a medicine that's going to help you, and you want to make sure that you're not going to be doing something that's going to cause endangering other people. Most of the time, you can drive without it. In fact, almost all the time. But just make sure that you just do that double check for the safety of yourself and the other people around you. Now, one of the questions is, will I get arrested if I get stopped? If you have a medical marijuana card and you have medical cannabis on you, as long as you're not taking it while you're driving, I don't recommend that you drive down the street with a vape pen in your mouth. But I think that if you have it like in your luggage or if you have it in your glove box or something like that, they will check to make sure you have a card and you're legal. That's why you get a medical marijuana card. Is that right, Jenny?
Well, you can't drive while being under the influence. So you can't show that you've been, smoking or taking any of your medicine while driving. So typically what they say is as long as it's in the original packaging and you have your patient label on it, then you should be good to go.
Right. Will they take my guns away? That's a good one. I'll let you answer that one.
Okay, so the answer to that question is no. A lot of people are worried, can I have my concealed weapon permit? Can I also have my medical marijuana card? So the answer is yes. So
you're not going to lose your card. I mean, we got to ask this question a lot. They're not going to come and take your guns away because you have a medical marijuana card.
Right. So the only problem it becomes is if you go to purchase a gun, there is a little checkbox that says about Schedule I drugs, and if you're under the influence of Schedule I drugs when you go to purchase a new gun. So that's something that prevents from purchasing if you're completely honest with it. Other than that, you can hold both those cards and it will not be an issue.
Yeah. And it's something that's very, very important to understand. Now, there's a lot of seniors I know in my community, they have trouble getting out. They have trouble driving. They have trouble just, getting around. Can you get it delivered? So Jenny, can you get it delivered?
So you can absolutely get it delivered. So MÜV's policy is we have a 20-mile radius for delivery. We have, like I said, we have locations all across the state. If you go onto our website, MÜVFL.com, it shows all of our locations, and within 20 miles, you can get delivery. Some of the locations, it can be a little bit further just because there's more distance between the two dispensaries, and we understand that. So we do deliver, that's a great option.
And then the question is it safe? I will say it is safe. You're not going to die from it. It's going to give you your life back, but you're not taking your life in your hands by being able to, by heading in this direction. So, and by the way, if you have any other questions, please feel free to ask. We're more than happy to answer them for you right now. But tell me a little bit about MÜV. Tell me what you guys do. I mean, you do some amazing things.
Well, like I said, we're a research and development company. I think we're the only dispensary here in the state of Florida that actually is a research and development company. We have a lab on our premise, so we do all of our own in-house lab testing as well as send it out to third-party testing. So you know you're getting the safest, purest form of cannabis on the market. We like to say we're the premier premium cannabis dispensary of Florida. When you come into our store, it's set up like, as you can see behind us, it's like an Apple store. You're not walking into a head shop. So you know that you're going to feel comfortable. You're going to be able to see all of the products on display there. Our med tenders, as we call them med tenders, are extremely educated, and we strive on making sure that the patients are educated and that they leave feeling comfortable with the products that they got. So thank you. Wow, you have all the stuff I just said right there. So we do have a wider range of methods, like I talked about before. And the way that the program is here in Florida is it's seed to sale. So what that basically means is that we grow, produce, and sell all of our own products. So we have our grow, where we grow all of our plants in Apollo Beach, which is on the west coast of Florida. And that's where we do all of our manufacturing and creations of our products. And then it ships around the state.
Yeah, and I should mention, you have quite a few locations.
We do. We just hit number 25 with the opening of Port St. Lucie. So that was very exciting. And we are opening Shalimar in the next few weeks. And then we just recently opened West Palm Beach and Port St. Lucie. We've got much more coming. Boynton Beach is coming soon. Miami's coming soon. So we're expanding quickly, which is great because I know the patients are asking. So, we went from having, I think it was 4 or 5 dispensaries last year this time, and now we have 25. So we're moving and grooving.
Yeah. No, I think this is important because you're beginning to get a big enough footprint that you're near a lot of people that are out there. So you mentioned best in class. You have a lot of different types of products.
Right. So one of the things that I want to talk about, and I touched on it a little bit, is our evolved technology. And I want to explain it a little bit better. So like I said, we have a patent on it. And what we did, there we go, is we took the THC particles and we broke them down into smaller elements and encapsulated them, making them water soluble, because normally cannabis does not want to enter into your skin and it just wants to stay on the top. But because of this encapsulation, it enables it to get into your skin, making it water soluble and getting into your bloodstream so that you have a full body effect. So we do have those in a couple of different of our products. So the tincture is one, but I will say about our tincture, it does contain alcohol in it because we use ethanol extraction, which is actually the purest, safest way to extract cannabis. It is more expensive, so a lot of other dispensaries opt not to use that form, but we do. So our tinctures do contain alcohol. If anybody has any sensitivity to that, they do contain alcohol, but it will be your fastest relief tincture. We do tend to tell people, because of the alcohol taste, to sometimes put it in like a shot of orange juice or put it in your glass of water. And because it's water soluble, it completely mixes in, not like the other ones that have the oil in the water and it separates. So that's really nice. The patch, go ahead.
I should point out that what happens is, if you look at the little chart over here, when you put it on your skin, it goes right into your bloodstream, which we saw from the endocannabinoid discussion. That's what's important. Most of the topicals right now, what they do without that technology, it goes onto your skin, but it never gets into your bloodstream. Exactly. And that's the main difference. That's why these products are much more effective than a lot of the products that are out on the market.
Right. So like I said, it also is in the patches. Thank you. So I think I went over most of that already. But I will tell you that the CBD patches come in CBD, THC, and 1-to-1 options. So it's nice to give you all of that.
Right.
Yep.
And then you have the Evolve.
And then the Evolve gel that I was talking about before, which is one of our biggest sellers. People love it. I suffer from migraines. I can take any of the over-the-counter medications and none of them help me. I take the THC gel, I put it right here, the headache goes away. It's amazing.
I like this particular product because it's about the size of a Blistex.
Yeah, it's like this big.
And when I traveled, when we were doing the seminars, I had it in my case. It was very easy to travel with. It was very easy to carry around, very easy to use. That and the combination of the patches really helped me be able to maintain my dosing regimen with a pretty busy schedule. Of course, now with the quarantine situation, it's easier, but it's still something that in fact, I used some of the Evolve patch, some of the Evolve today. So
that's great. So this is actually one of my favorite products to talk about, especially in the senior community. This is a metered dose inhaler. So it looks like an asthma inhaler. So we're actually the only ones that carry this. So this is going to be a micro dose, a small dose of THC as well. So this is, and like I said, it comes in 1-to-1 as well. So if you wanted to get that CBD also and have that, so THC is really great for pain. CBD is really good for inflammation. So adding the two together, it's the perfect combo. So the meter dose inhaler, like I said, it's just like this. You spray it with every actuation. You're getting a small dose of your medicine, and it's, like I said, it's discreet, no smell. Throw it in your pocket, your purse. You're good to go, and it's easy to dose, and you don't have to worry about how much I'm taking of this or that. So it's very simple.
That's one of the things I like about your company and what you do. You've made it easier to dose. That's out there.
Yep, and here's the oral spray that we were talking about before. Right. So again, microdose, it has a mild orange mint flavor, so you're not going to be just tasting weed. And this is the THC formulation.
Right. And then of course the topicals.
Right. So the topicals are really nice, especially with the senior community as well, because anything from arthritis to tennis elbow for those active seniors, we've taken all of the greatest natural ingredients in these lotions and added the cannabis into it. So actually our hydrating lotion is the Ritz-Carlton formulation with all of the yummy scents and plants and everything like that, and we just added cannabis into it. So these are really great. The sports gel obviously has that menthol, that cooling effect. So if you're sore from the gym or playing tennis or whatever it is, that's a great one for after your workout for recovery.
Right. And as I mentioned, I use it on my skin for my sunspots. It works. So, and then the tinctures, of course.
Yes. So the tinctures, this is actually the RSO strain specific tincture. So this one differs in the other sublingual tinctures that we have. So the other sublingual tinctures that we have are just pure THC or just CBD. This right here is an RSO tincture. So I think this is the only one on the market. So this is the RSO, the full spectrum that we were talking about before. So this is a great way to get that truly medicinal form of the plant. And it's a nice way because you can self-dose. Because RSO is so potent, a lot of people struggle with the correct dosing. And if this is actually the one that if you take too much, it can cause a problem, so you have to be very careful with the dosing. So this is a great way to do that because you could take just a quarter dropper just to see if it works. And it's strain specific. So what that means is that depending upon what plant we're harvesting, what strain, we're going to produce this RSO. So you're going to get different RSO tinctures that can help you with different ailments. For example, what we have in store now is a strain called modified grapes. It's an indica. So you would think, okay, well, this is going to help me sleep. So I actually purchased it just to try so that I could talk to patients about it. And taking some of it, actually I took a full dropper and I did not feel psychoactivity, but again, my tolerance is higher. But what I did feel was extreme pain relief. And a lot of patients are reporting the same thing, that this RSO modified grape strain is great for pain relief. And that's an amazing thing to find out that, different strains help for different symptoms. And having one product that will help with something like pain is a great thing to add in. It doesn't taste gross like the rest of the RSO. It can taste, when you take it in the syringe form, it's a distillate. So it's almost like a wax. And it just tastes icky. This is a more pleasant way to take it.
Yeah. And RSO is, you have to be careful because it's very strong. But again, when you're going after pain, you're going after cancer, this is the product you need. You gotta play with that. So tell me about Strain Print.
Okay, so Strain Print is actually an app on your phone for all of you tech savvies. You can download it from the App Store. It's on both Android and Apple. It's a free app. And what it is, it's a tracker for your cannabis use. So what that means is that, you know, let's say you go to different dispensaries or you come into MÜV and you try, let's say Velvet Glove. That's another one of our strains. It's one of my favorite indicas. You come in, you try it, and let's say it didn't do anything for you. So then you're going to write it down in this app and you're going to say how it made you feel. So that way, when you go back into the store, you say, you know what, that one didn't work so well for me. Let me try this one. And then when you go in, you find something that you like, you also track it so that you remember. It also gives you the option as to, you know, what kind of relief are you getting? What symptoms are you looking to treat? What did it treat? So that way you have a journal of your experience, because it can be very overwhelming. It can, you know, say, oh, well, I tried this, it didn't work, I'm going to give up. You know, the thing with cannabis is you really have to be patient because it is so much of trial and error for each individual person. So the Strain Print app is a really nice tool for patients to use to help remember their cannabis experience.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And of course, you have a patient care team, which is important.
Exactly. So if you have any issues, if you're going to try to navigate through the website and you can't find something that you want, or, you know, any type of questions or problems that you're having, we do have a patient care team that you can call in and they can help you with anything to navigate, whether it's the website, or we do have a rewards point system. Anything that you're having issues with or questions, you can call our team and they'll help.
Yeah, and I know some we got asked a question about getting assistance, dosage assistance. I should mention that MMTC has a dosing center, and they have an 800 number that you can call and get support for your dosing. And by the way, coupling that with what you're doing with MÜV, that if you're in the dispensary and you have some questions and you need to reach your doctor, MMTC allows you to be able to talk to a practitioner to really help you. And that's really, really important at that particular point in time. Getting your dosing right is critical. When you get your dosing right, you get your life back. And you do have to experiment with it a little bit. This isn't like take 2 aspirin and I'll see you in the morning. This is where you have to be able to basically dial it in to your body, which is every person's body is different. But once you do, it's a pretty good thing. So, and then you have a rewards program.
We do have a rewards program. It's very easy. If you have time to check out our website, like I said before, MÜV-FL.com, all of this info is on there. So if we're going too fast or you want to look into it, you can go back and look on our website. There's also, we have a blog on our website now, which talks a lot about different topics. It's very informative to give you more information if you guys are seeking that. But anyway, so what the points are is for every dollar that you spend, you get a point. And those points actually add up to dollars off that you can use on your future purchases. And what's nice about that is that every time that you go to a doctor, you go to an MMTC doctor, they should give you a physician referral card, which has 3 separate discounts that you guys can use once per recommendation period, so twice a year. And those discounts can be used in conjunction with these U points dollars off. So that's a really nice stackable discount for the patients.
Great. And you have discounts.
We do have discounts. So of course, so besides for the physician referral cards, which are those 3 separate discounts, you do get a first patient 25% off. Veterans, we do 20% off. And we have senior Sundays. We've been doing that, and that's 10% off for 55 and up. So that's the other thing you should do is go onto our website and sign up for our email list, and you'll get notifications of whenever we're having promos, sales, senior Sundays. And then newly we introduced a 25% off pediatric discount.
Right. And I have signed up for your text messages, and you get some pretty good deals. You offer patches and things like that. So
yeah, we change our deals and we have them every week. So it's great.
Kind of like the Publix BOGO things, you know, you gotta pay attention to them.
Right.
So yeah, but I'd recommend doing that. And by the way, we had a question. Trudy asked what the 800 number is. Trudy, I apologize. It's an 85 number to get dosing support. Lee has answered that question for you. Again, I forgot it was 850, not 800, but the number is there. That's what's important. You can reach them. And of course, you have Senior Spotlight.
Right. So we're saying we've been having senior spotlights. They've been on Sundays. We're trying it out. It seems to be really popular, and that's the 20% off for seniors.
Great. Cool. Plus you have delivery.
And then we talked about delivery, and you can order by the phone with that care team that I was talking about before. And then you also can do it online through our website. You can shop, and everything that's online is actually current and what we have in stock. So, you know, you can check your different location, and you can actually put in your order right there online. And we do have express options. Some of our dispensaries have separate express windows. If not, there's a separate checkout for express to make it a quick and easy process so that you don't have to sit there and wait around. And especially with COVID, nobody wants to be, you know, sitting around with lots of people. So in and out.
And I've used that, and what I like is it's very contactless. You
Yep.
worked out something where you basically pick it up and there's almost no contact at all,
Right.
other than getting the product.
Right.
So anyway, that's MÜV. Jenni, any final thoughts?
No, I just think that, you know, we all understand that this is, you know, a new territory for a lot of you. We're very understanding of that. And we want to make sure that everybody just feels comfortable trying this and isn't so afraid, you know, of the stigma and all that stuff. So we're really here to help you guys. And there's no question, you know, that you should be embarrassed about or anything like that. We just are here to help you, you know, enrich your life and make your life better and hopefully relieve some of your symptoms.
Right. And I think I'm going to, wrapping this up, I'd like to just mention this isn't, I mentioned it before, this isn't a magic wand. This is something where you got to pay attention to your body. When you're going to getting into medical cannabis, eat right, walk a little bit, you know, get yourself into a balanced living situation. It only accentuates it. It makes it a lot better, and it makes it a lot easier. It's something I think as a senior that we need to pay attention to. And sometimes we don't do that, and we've got to do it. You know, we can prolong our lives. We can make our lives a lot better if we do that. We can alleviate our pain and our inflammations and things like that. So balanced living is important. I want to mention one more slide that's here. And it's not something I'm going to go over per se, but you're going to get a copy of this, and you're going to be able to get a follow-up, which will be a website that you can go to. You get a copy, you'll see the video of this presentation, but you'll have all these connections. So if you'd like to read and find out more about it, we will provide you plenty of information to be able to dig down in the situation. So, Jenni, I think we've just about captured everything.
Yeah, this was great. Like I said, if anybody has questions, you know, we're here. Let us know.
Yeah, and I want to thank everyone for coming, and I want to thank everybody for following up. This is important for us. I think that we have, especially as seniors, you know, we want to have a quality of life, and this is something that I find has helped a lot of people with their quality of life. So please feel free to look at medical cannabis, use it, and be able to go forward with it. So cool. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank everybody for coming. And next week, we're doing another one next week, another medical marijuana awareness webinar. Next week is on pain management and chronic pain. So feel free to join us. And again, thanks everyone for coming. Thank you, Jenni, for being there.
Thank you, Marc.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.